Hello, welcome back to our YouTube channel, The Triple Twins, here where we share the rare journey into motherhood. If you're here for the first time, you are welcome. And those that have watched the previous episodes, welcome once again. Join Womjin is my name. And today we are talking about the struggles that we went in. You know, in the previous episode, I shared about my answered prayer, a childhood dream that was answered, and God blessed me with twins. What I did not share was what came after the celebrations. You know, at times we focus on the miracle and we forget the responsibilities that come with it. People saw beautiful twins, people celebrated us, people congratulated us, but they did not know that this was a test, a journey of test to our faith, to our marriage, to our finances, and different struggles, and our resilience, like something I had never expected. Wow. What happened? You'd find that these children were taking, they needed formula. And at that time, we didn't have a good financial muscle. Come with the first set of twins. My husband reached a point where I was like, where are we getting this formula? They needed formula. The breast milk was not enough. Remember, even at home, you don't have enough food, you as a mother, to feed. So we started counting the bottles. In fact, my husband would just put them there on the shelves to see how many. We learned that in a week, they would take like 3 to 4 tins of milk. It was very expensive. And the day when it would be done, the next day you go to the supermarket, you would find the prices have escalated. You would sleep thinking, where are we getting the milk the next day? Then there was a test of house helps. I told you that in the first twins, my sisters were around, my husband was around. So I didn't feel, people have always asked me, how did you manage these children? Did you have 2 maids? But you know the challenges of house helps. I can't say that, yes, sometimes you find good ones, but at times it is a challenge, and especially when they are really young toddlers. And it comes, I told you, I'm a working mother, a health worker in that. So it reaches and maternity leave will end. But thank God for my employees. By then I was given 6 months. So I enjoyed the first set. I had the time my sisters were around, as everyone was excited. I was the first one to get in my father's house to get twins. And mark you, these twins, people have asked me, are they in your family? What? From my side, my father had twins. Even my husband's side, for them, they even produce quadruplets and triplets. Can you imagine that? So it was, I believe, yes, it was an answered prayer, because not everyone in that family produces the twins, but it comes at a rare occasions, and it is a blessing from God. So through the formula struggles, God provided in a way that we could not understand. And also, when it reached the point of going to work, then you have left them with the house helps, and now they start getting sick. And the excuses become excuses from work. And the stress of waking up in the night. But I told you that what I can give as a snippet is after the first set. Then the second, I learned how to train children to sleep. That is a story of another day, so that I can also sleep. The other day, someone was sharing, was like, how do I sleep when the toddler is sleeping? Yet I need, it was like a clip that they showed the mother was in the shower with a banana, with breakfast, wanted to shower, wanted to do gym. How do you juggle all that? So one thing that I mastered, but that was after the second set, was to teach them a sleeping routine that could allow me space also to rest. Then having these people, how to deal with the people that are around you as a support system. But that came after the struggle. I want to tell you that on the second set of twins, though they came in after 3 years, I think it stretched us. And I went into depression. Yeah, like I was still telling you about the struggles we went through. And in fact, on my first pregnancy, when we had given birth, my husband lost his job. And hell broke loose. I remember on my first pregnancy, I was juggling 2 jobs. But it reached a point I got tired. So I decided to stay with one which was in government. And in that period, also my husband lost his job and was looking at starting a business, but we had no capital. And the twins have come in. The formula is needed, and you need sanity. I don't know whether there's any mother who has gone through that or family. And this was the blessing, the prayer I had prayed for. Well, amidst that, you would look at the twins, you're excited, they look beautiful. But thank God for the support that we had, that my sisters could come in and maybe bring the food. You're stranded, you can borrow money somewhere. And at work, the little money that we would get would budget within. But for the food at home, I vividly remember some lady who had a small shop near where we were renting by then and would get food on loan. So when the month would end, you would find that you're going to pay for the portion beans. And remember, because you have no choice, whether they are old stock, how, you're looking on how to feed. You can imagine that state. I believe if you connect with me, you can understand. But amidst that, we had a dream with my husband. One, we had struggles, of course. You know, when one is not working and the finances are not being seen. I remember one day I moved and my husband was like, I think we should sell the chairs in the house that we find what to eat. One day I moved, I found he had sold the gas that we had so that he buys formula for the children. I was so hurt, but I had nothing to do. We wanted the children to survive. I can't imagine how we survived through the crash, but our marriage was tested. The faith was tested. Parenting was tested. And you could not speak this out. That's how I realized I was falling into depression and no one could understand. Well, I would pray. I had maybe my sisters, I would run to them. At times they say, keep the things to yourself, but I was bursting. You reach a point you feel you want to hate the children that you have because you can't feed them. When I remember that state, and my husband would walk, get some gig here, some small thing. I remember one time he showed me the shoe he had used, and the sole had been eaten down there. At times we remember that picture and we laugh. A colleague of his, he had sent it to him. So you know, like how men, they really struggle. But at that time, I could not understand. I needed answers. God, you answered the prayer of twins, but now where is the provision? The salary would come and it is in loans, because you have been borrowing what to feed on and feed on the children. One time we sat on our veranda, I think 13, 14 years ago, and we drew up a dream of what we wanted. Remember sitting with our babies, with my husband, and we were like, we're going to start a hospital. But start from where? No money. But we put the picture like Habakkuk says, Habakkuk chapter 2, 3, that write the vision, your dream on paper, so that when the Herod sees it, they run with it. I remember we structured the hospital the way we wanted it, put everything the way we wanted, but we're like, where do we get the money from? That's why he started his journey of marketing. It was like, I have worked in these spaces and we did this type of work. The work that we are doing now of health screening, working with schools and having a medical facility. So we're like, let's put our knowledge and we market. And I remember renting the first place with the money, that the little savings that we had, but still we could not pay rent, sustain rent. They closed, they locked the things there. I remember crying and telling God, one day we pray with Watoto, we were in sale. I cried, I told people, God, you lied me. I wrestled with God. I said, God, you deceived me. It couldn't be this. And no one would understand. After that, we were able to shift. At least we got a government house where we work. That was a lifting off. I remember even the time we shifted, we still had rent, but the landlord allowed us, you go when you get money, you'll do what? You'll pay it. I remember my husband faithfully, when he got money, he took it and paid it. After that struggle, that's when we got the second set of twins. At least there we were coming. We had started getting gigs. We had a briefcase company. We would go work. Because you have taken long without eating meat, we would stop somewhere and buy that chicken and eat it. Oh my goodness. So from there, at least as like this formula, I learned that the way that formula was expensive, I read a lot and asked about nutritionists, so I was able to introduce these other babies earlier. Because when you start them on formula, it is very hard at times to transition to other milk. So I trained them on Jessa and how to mix it, and God helped me, the second set adopted earlier. But because of the stress we had gone in and we had not solved the issues as a couple, we were going through a lot in our marriage, agreeing, disagreeing, and I was in depression, mental health. I would diagnose myself and I'm like, I am down. The outbursts and the angers and the silent treatment. I thank God that He held us together through that. Those are the times even you don't need people around. But I was able to be present at work and deliver. But I was wearing off on the outside. When I discovered that one time I was there and I met this group of ladies and they had a fellowship, I said, let me just join them. And they were teaching about self-awareness, praying together. Mind you, I was a believer. I would pray, but I was worn out. I had given up, struggling here and there. Oh, how did I reach where I am in coming to recover from that answered prayer with the responsibility and stress and torture? I had to discover that I needed counseling, I needed therapy, I needed prayer. And that has been part of my journey that has brought me here. Deeper into that story, we shall talk about it in the next episodes. If you liked what we share, please like, subscribe, share, and look out for more. And give us your suggestions, what we should talk about, and add more on that. Thank you very much. Ciao.